Hello, I'm a housewife in my 50s. I got married when I was 36. It's not like that these days, but when I got married, I was regarded to be an old maid. The wife of my husband's older brother was a lot younger than I was. My father-in-law didn't like me even before I got married because of my age and would show it, so I felt hurt many times. However, my mother-in-law treated me well, so I comforted myself with that. Even after we got married, my father-in-law's attitude did not change. He didn't say much, but he always treated me coldly, and if I made even a minor mistake, he would frown at me, clicking his tongue, looking displeased. Yet he was very friendly to the wife of my husband's older brother. Even though I tried hard not to feel bad, I would end up feeling hurt automatically. It was nice that my mother-in-law treated me warmly, though. My own mother passed away from cancer when I was in middle school, so I missed having a mother. Thus, teen forces. I felt like my mother-in-law was my mom. On the other hand, the cold treatment by my father-in-law continued, so it became burdensome to go to my in-laws. A relationship with one's in-laws is already awkward, but when there was someone who disliked me so much, I hated going to my in-laws, and whenever I had to go, I had chest pains and I couldn't even digest well. One time, I couldn't eat anything from having heartburn and indigestion, so I took the medicine before going, and when my mother-in-law saw me in a bad shape, she worriedly asked, "Are you sick?" "You don't look well." "I don't feel well, but I took the medicine, so I should become better." Then my father-in-law criticized me. "Goodness, how could you not be able to take care of your own body?" And he spread open the newspaper annoyingly. At that moment, my sister-in-law came with her husband, and she also said that she didn't feel well and took some medicine. My father-in-law then told her kindly, "Oh dear, you must have car sickness. Eat some medicine and go inside and lie down." When I heard that, I teared up without realizing it. My mother-in-law quickly noticed me and she embraced my shoulders and said, "Everyone is not feeling well, so let's just order some food to be delivered and eat light." She tried to comfort me. Really, if it weren't for my mother-in-law, my life would have been much more miserable. However, it wasn't that I got jealous of my sister-in-law or hated her. She was a very kind and gentle person. She never frowned or said no to our parents-in-law. But before they got married, I had met her, and she was so considerate and kind that I felt like doing something nice for her automatically. So, I could somewhat understand why my father-in-law was being so nice to her. I was just hurt that he was discriminating against me just because I was older. But my mother-in-law strangely stayed distant from my sister-in-law. At first, I thought she was being that way because my father-in-law was paying such close attention to her. But peer my husband, she always happened like that. My mom didn't like my sister-in-law from the beginning. Even though she didn't say it, I would say that she was being wary of her. Instead, "I think she likes you though." "Yes, but everyone else who meets with your older brother's wife even once likes her." "So, I wonder what is it that your mom doesn't like her?" I was curious, but there was no way I could find out. Then one day, my mother-in-law asked me to go shopping with her. So I went to her house. Then I got a text message from my sister-in-law. "Hey Megan, are you busy? I'm wondering if you could pick up my son. It's Jimmy from his preschool." But since I was older than her, she was always very cordial to me. I told her that it was too much, but she said that she felt uneasy if she didn't treat me polite. "Angela, I'm sorry, but I'm out with our mother-in-law." I texted her back. She replied, "Oh, I see. I'm sorry to interrupt you from having a good time." Then my mother-in-law said that she got a text message and quickly telephoned. "Angela, what is this money? I got a text message that you deposited some money to my bank account." "No, we're shopping, but why should you?" "It's okay. I will return the money when you come over next time." "Mother, who is it that you're talking that way?" I asked. "Well, it's Angela. And she sent 300 pounds to spend while shopping with you? I don't know why she's doing stuff like that to make me feel uncomfortable." She said she didn't like it, so I said, "She heard that you and I were shopping, so she sent it thinking of us." I said it cautiously, but she retorted if she does something like that, what'd become of us? Even though she's doing it as if she's being considerate, that makes me feel more uncomfortable. In respect, I felt regretful more than thankful to her. I also felt uncomfortable because Angela treated me with too much politeness. Even though my mother-in-law did not talk anymore about my sister-in-law, I could feel for sure that she didn't like my sister-in-law, as my mother-in-law hardly ever complained about others and the family in front of us. That's how much she reserved her personal opinion, and whenever my sister-in-law and I were together, she never displayed favoritism outright. I liked her being that way. I felt I could trust her, since she never talked badly about anyone else. After I was married for 3 years, I gave birth to my first daughter. Still, nothing changed with my father-in-law. He adored his first granddaughter by my sister-in-law and looked for her when he didn't see her, but he showed coolness toward our daughter. It broke my heart that my daughter was being disliked by her grandpa, all because of me. One day, my daughter was sitting next to my sister-in-law's daughter in the living room at my in-laws when a water pipe repairman came into our house. Then my father-in-law only carried his first granddaughter into his bedroom. My husband also became upset because of that incident and said, "Dad, our Eunice is younger than Mary. She could walk on her own, but why do you leave Eunice behind all alone?" Still, my father-in-law just ignored my husband, so I told him, "Honey, let's not try to get attention from your dad." Still, your mom adores our Eunice a lot. I find that so helpful and could go on. Then my husband complained, even if there are people he feels more, he's being too much. Actually, when I was young, my dad always favored my older brother more than me. Later, when our Eunice gets older and is subjected to being hurt by your dad in the future, let's not bring her to your parents' house at all. Okay, let's do that. It's enough that we are treated that way. I don't want my daughter to get that kind of treatment also. we comforted each other that way. However, it turned out that such a thing would never happen. My father-in-law, who was so healthy, suddenly collapsed, suffering from a stroke. Thanks to going to the hospital immediately and receiving emergency treatment quickly, he didn't have many side effects from that, but he kept getting sicker steadily after that incident. Thus, my sister-in-law and I took turns to care for our father-in-law, but no matter how I tried, I couldn't keep up with my sister-in-law. She brought all kinds of health products, from expensive and hard-to-get nutritional supplements to genuine ginseng extract. She would bring floral arrangements every week, and whatever my father-in-law wanted to eat, she would somehow get them, no matter how rare it was. Also took flowers and food, but I couldn't match her devoted efforts. My father-in-law's palate was very particular, and the food that he wanted was hard to find as they weren't sold in the market, and I had to give up looking for them a lot of times, but I didn't know how she was able to find them. I could only respect her for it. One time, my father-in-law wanted some ribs, so I made them and took them to him. My sister-in-law didn't hear that, so she made some minced meat dish, which she made herself. It looked beautiful and luxurious just looking at it. My father-in-law didn't eat the ribs I made and ate the minced meat dish my sister-in-law made, and he was very satisfied with it. Then my mother-in-law looked at the bottom of the container, which had a red label on it, which had a print, and she said, "I knew this was it." If she bought it, all she had to do is just say that she bought it. My mother-in-law murmured to herself and threw the container away. Later, when I looked at it, the label had Saks Fifth Avenue department store barcode on it. My mother-in-law seemed to know generally what kind of person my sister-in-law was. That was why she kept her distance from her. Nevertheless, my father-in-law received devoted care from my sister-in-law for a few years, then passed away from acute pneumonia. It was sad that my father-in-law passed away, but my husband and I were hurt once again. My father-in-law had real estate and each amounted to a lot of money. He gave 80 of that to my husband's older brother and his wife. We got a small plot of land in the countryside. The rest was for my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law got very upset with the attorney, scolding him for not saying anything about it to her when her husband was doing his will. My husband and I felt hurt, but we comforted my mother-in-law. "Mother, we are okay with it. It's not as if we are not earning money. We lived all this time on our own." "That's right, Mom." "She's right, and you shouldn't pay attention to that." As my husband said, I was thankful to my mother-in-law. It was so reassuring that an elder from my in-laws cared about me. In truth, it was hard for our family to get close to my husband's older brother's family. It was difficult to be close when my sister-in-law and my husband's older brother were favored by my father-in-law. And then my husband's older brother somewhat started to look down at us too. So all those things piled up, and we didn't have many visits with one another. So when the inheritance was mostly taken by them, if my mother-in-law didn't care for us, it would have been very difficult. Anyway, the inheritance was settled like that. Then my sister-in-law told my mother-in-law, "Since we got this much of inheritance, it is only right that we take care of you." That's okay. I can live by myself. I can live here, and like now, you guys can come and visit along with Eunice's family. My mother-in-law said, but my sister-in-law insisted, so my mother-in-law ended up moving into my sister-in-law's house. At that time, my husband and I were working in the countryside due to my husband's work. Because we were far away, we couldn't visit my mother-in-law very often. Because she now lived with my sister-in-law, I couldn't call my mother-in-law as often as I used to in the past. But for some reason, I felt uneasy to call so often, and it seemed that my mother-in-law couldn't speak frankly with me. So naturally, the calls were fewer. Then, after some time, my husband called me from work. Honey, find out where my mom is. She does not answer the phone, and something is strange. I can't even get hold of my brother. So I tried to call my mother-in-law, and surely I couldn't get hold of her either. The message came out that the number no longer exists. I was very dumbfounded, so I called my sister-in-law, but her phone was also disconnected. I really had a bad feeling. So, I bought a train ticket and went to my sister-in-law's house. There, a strange woman came out. Ma'am, when did you move to this house? You know the people who used to live here? I moved here about 3 months ago. The people who lived here said they were moving abroad. Then, by any chance, did you see an old lady at that time? She's my mother-in-law. An old lady? Oh, when I first came to take a look at this house, a van from a nursing home picked her up and she was protesting from going there pretty noisily. Was it her? I had a feeling that something terrible must have happened. I immediately called my husband and told him to come up. Then we checked all the people who knew my sister-in-law and called them. Then I found one lady who knew the news about my sister-in-law. She said that she was immigrating to France ever since last year. Aren't you guys a family? Yes, but we haven't heard anything. Well, you're poured anything. So we don't know where my mother-in-law is either. Then the woman said, the lady told me that she couldn't take care of her mother-in-law because she got dementia, so she was putting her in a nursing home. I couldn't believe that my mother-in-law had dementia when she was healthy and had a great memory. As soon as my husband came up, we went to the nursing home where the woman told us about. But my mother-in-law was not there. She only stayed here for 1 month. Her daughter-in-law said she was moving her to another nursing home. Do you know where she was going? I heard that it was out in the countryside, but I don't know any details. From there, my husband and I started looking for every nursing home out in the rural area, even in remote places where the nursing home wasn't very large or well known. However, she was nowhere to be found. Our worries became bigger. We decided to report her missing person at the police station, and as our last resort, we went by another place. That wasn't the one we had originally planned to check, but by accident, we happened to go by and for some reason. But I kept thinking about that place. So we went by and the person at the information desk said, "Oh, that woman came in not too long ago. Her son paid for the 6 months of fees in advance." She led us to the room where my mother-in-law was. When we went into her room, my husband and I were so shocked that we couldn't close our mouths. My mother-in-law had lost so much weight, and she was in a room with 6 other people, and she was sleeping on the last bed by the corner against the wall. "Mother, how did you end up here?" "We're here, Mother." I started to sob and called my mother-in-law. My husband comforted me. The nurse told us that she wouldn't be able to recognize us. Then my husband said that couldn't be. She was fine only 6 months ago. Still, she now has Alzheimer's disease. As soon as the attendant said that to us, my mother-in-law said, "Is that you, Frank?" I could hear her feeble voice. That when we called her and approached her, she fell asleep again. We heard that the nursing home gave her some sedative, and it seemed that she was sleeping because of that. We immediately got her discharged from the nursing home and brought her to our house and took her to a large hospital to get her tested. The brain memory showed that she didn't have Alzheimer's disease, so we were very relieved and came back home. However, my mother-in-law couldn't talk, not even one word. When we took her back to the hospital, the doctor said that it seemed to be a result of some shock and needed time. My husband and I became furious at his older brother and his wife. How could a person be like that? What's wrong with my brother? Even if his wife was like that, he's her son. Wow, he's not even a human being. They were just being good to her, but after your dad died, they got the most of the inheritance, so they were trying to get her house even. How could they be like that? They should have left her the house at least. I couldn't have enjoyed it without your mom after we got married. Let's not look for your brother and his wife, and let's just take care of your mother ourselves. Let them live with all the money and live well by themselves. Honey, thank you. My husband held my hands tight. I tried to get my mother-in-law well and devoted myself to her fully. I tried to do everything for her since she couldn't talk and was suffering. That we went to the hospital, to an Oriental medicine doctor, and got her some herbal medicine. I took massage lessons so that I could give her a full body massage. I made sure I cooked nutritious meals and gave her a high protein and fresh vegetable diet. Then eventually, my mother-in-law started to gain her strength and began talking little by little. When we went to her doctor, he said, "She is almost back to normal. I don't think you need to worry about her any longer." I cried automatically. I held my mother-in-law's hands and said, "Mother, it's really fortunate. It's so great." Then she said, "It's all because of you that I'm alive again." She spoke clearly and her eyes twinkled like before. I was so happy that I started crying again. My mother-in-law just hugged me and kept saying thank you. At night, when my husband came back from work, my mother-in-law called us and said, "This is yours." She handed us a packet of documents. "Mom, what are these?" "It's something I left for you guys." When my husband and I looked at the documents, it was the title to a small building together with some stocks and savings assigned to our name. My mother-in-law told us that she was suspicious of my sister-in-law because she was just too friendly, but not natural, so she had her checked out. My sister-in-law used to go out with one doctor after another repeatedly from the hospital she worked. My mother-in-law didn't have evidence, but my sister-in-law seemed to have extorted some money from those doctors. She told her son about her before he got married, but her son didn't even try to listen to his mom. Her husband also liked the daughter-in-law because she seemed kind and obedient. Eventually, her son got married to her, but my mother-in-law didn't come to like her. However, I couldn't outright hate the girl my son brought into our family as my daughter-in-law. It was very hard for me too. So when she sent me to the nursing home, I thought I was being punished for having hateful thoughts about my daughter-in-law. After her husband died, she felt that my sister-in-law would covet the remainder of the property, so my mother-in-law prepared it in advance. My mother-in-law put all her assets that were given to her by her husband in our names, and the stocks which were originally hers were also left to us. She had those stocks ever since she was younger, and now they were worth a fortune. My sister-in-law was trying to get the rest from my mother-in-law, but when she found out that there wasn't anything left, she sent my mother-in-law to a nursing home. At first, she cared about what other people would say, so she sent her to a nice place, and later she moved her to an old and small place again. It made me shiver to think that she would scheme that much in detail. Fuzzy mother, still you're living, so we can't accept these. Right, Mom? For now, just keep them with you. But you came this far even when you thought that I had nothing. Now, I only have you. So why would I need this? So that's how she distributed her properties over to us. However, we didn't dare to spend any of it. We were working hard and living with my mother-in-law happily. One day, we got a call from an unknown number. I wasn't going to answer it in case it was a spam call. However, it kept ringing, so I couldn't help but answer it. Megan, it's me. Are you doing okay? Angela? How could you ask if I'm doing okay? I couldn't believe my sister-in-law talked in a cheerful voice as if nothing happened. She said that there was a big misunderstanding and said she wanted to meet me as she would be coming back to London soon. So, I told her I would meet her somewhere else and not at our house. I didn't want my mother-in-law to get another shock when she sees her. So my husband and I got hold of ourselves trying to keep calm and went out to meet with his older brother and his wife. Those two must have had a good life since both had gained a lot of weight. Angela said, "I'm sorry that we didn't contact you before we left. We were going to call you after we registered our mother-in-law at a nursing home, but we became very busy." Never mind. Why did you ask us to meet you? My husband cut off my sister-in-law and asked very coldly as a matter of fact. Then his older brother said, "What do you mean, why? Isn't it obvious as brothers?" Then his wife said there was a misunderstanding. We had an urgent business. And by the way, I am hoping that you will invest in our business. That Yuzi, as my sister-in-law said, that she was smiling, which made me get so annoyed. From what we heard, the business they were talking about was the pyramid scheme in health food business. They were lining up people under them, and because it took money to continue, they claimed that they will get profits if they did just a little more, and they would give back our invested money. My husband and I felt so ridiculous that we just looked at each other. I said, "We can't do that. We don't even spend any money because it's too valuable to us. So we can't invest in something like that." Then my sister-in-law said with her smiling face, "But isn't that to be decided by your husband and not you?" Then I got angry. "I'm not going to consider you as my sister-in-law from here on and talking to you as a person. Okay. How could a young person like you live life like that? How dare you extort money here and there and trying to live off of others like that? How dare you put our mother-in-law into some nameless old nursing home just because she wouldn't give you her money? I'm giving you a chance just because you are the wife of my husband's older brother. But before I called the police, you had better disappear from our face." I took a very strong stance. Then, when my husband and I got up together to leave, those two grabbed us and begged us to give them money. I don't want to hear it. Should I really call the police? When I shouted at them, only then those two gave up. Later, I found out that they were trying to make money the easy way in the pyramid scheme in France and blew all the money they took with them. And they even sold the house they bought there and were barely making it here and there. When we came home, my husband and I decided that the money our mother gave to us will be spent only on her while she was alive. Like, as much as she thought of us, it was only right that we return it to her. After we decided that, we felt much better. My husband's brother and his wife returned from France after some time and called us several times, but we only answered the phone and did not meet with them. After that, they no longer contact us. Still, because they were my husband's family, I'd worry and think about them once in a while. But when I think about what they did to our mother-in-law, I become so angry with them. I can't stand it. They were also lying to our father-in-law. How money can turn people into being like that. I guess it has such great power to do that. We are still living with my mother-in-law very happily. She's very healthy as before. We are not greedy, and I want to live by taking care of my daughter and my mother-in-law, so they will be healthy. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope you all have a very peaceful day. Thank you and be happy. Please cheer for me and write your comments of wisdom in the comment section. Pressing like and subscription is a big help to me. Have a wonderful day.